So I have another question for you. This is something that I've talked about with a few people online. The anime and manga fandom has generally been considered to be sort of 50-50 male-female based on attendance at anime conventions, whereas comics obviously have always been much more male-dominated.
Yeah.
And now I have found that there's always been a group of women who are in the anime and manga fandom who act as though and talk as though they are in a very small minority and make a big deal about being female anime fans and are often very sensitive to matters like that. Do you think, how much of it is do you think, exacerbated by the mindset of being in that minority? And how much of it is completely just merited by the topic, if that makes sense to you?
I think I understand what you're trying to say. Are you asking me?
Basically, do any women in the comics world kind of overreact due to knowing that there are fewer of their voices?
Such a minority. You know what? I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
I think some good examples of that we can see are Marvel and DC titles that are targeted towards girls.
Mm-hmm.
I think Marvel just recently released like a Pride and Prejudice version of comic books, which is interesting. I personally wouldn't pick it up, and I love Pride and Prejudice. It's one of my favorite books. But in terms of turning, Jane Austen's classic tale that was, mainly female readers to a comic book is kind of weird, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It's unique, but not exactly what I'd pick up. I think that in comic books, there are plenty of female characters that are portrayed as being very powerful, feminist characters, and I think that's great, and that's what actually initially, got me to read them. You have characters in the DC universe, like Wonder Woman is this powerful, iconic female, and she can kick Superman's ass, you know what I mean? Like, no problem, she's great. And then you have, really intellectual characters like Oracle, the former Batgirl. Even though she's restrained to this wheelchair, she's still the brains behind so much of, the Justice League's operations. You have these very, very powerful intellectual female characters. And I think that the way that they are represented in comic books, I think that that's what draws females. And I can't say that it's completely, that comic book companies don't completely target women, because I think to some extent they do. I mean, when I look at, a sexy panel of Storm, I'm like, wow, Storm looks really good. I kind of wish that I looked like Storm. I have no problem with my looking at something that is, aesthetically pleasing and kind of sexual. I don't know if I'm answering your question.